1-1.
Sorry, it was hard to walk out of the main stage. So, what the fuck? The main room, completely crowded.
Yeah, luckily it's not too hot now. Okay, so should we start? What time is it?
So, what is a multi-chain?
What's an L2?
Okay,
We'll start from basics.
that's a controversial question to start with.
So, who,
Well, the Street Fighter music. So I'm not sure we have the right for this music. So please use less than 3 seconds so we don't get the video taken out.
Yeah, you can stretch out in the meantime. Remember all the facts about it. See what arguments you'll use.
bah, il y a du monde. Hein.
Eh ben, y a du monde, hein.
Okay, we are ready to get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Alex. I'm CEO and co-founder at Deepbridge. My team is building interoperability infrastructure. But today we gather here all together to have an interesting discussion. And it's not even discussion, that's a debate. Today we're going to talk about layer 2s and multi-chain and compare how these two approaches are like different, what are benefits, pros and cons, etc. And here we got two amazing speakers, and not only speakers, but contenders. We got Jérôme de Tucci and
92 kilos.
and Sebastian Couture. So before we get started with the introductions, I would like to explain the rules of this sort of competition. So we're gonna have two camps. So layer 2s and multi-chain world, right? So two camps. If you support multi-chain, you should stay on this side, right? Like on the left from this column.
All right.
If you support like Ethereum-centric approach with various layer 2s, you should stand here. And then at the end, we'll see what camp actually won. And the winner will be able to gift one ticket to La Dijon party. That's gonna be tomorrow at the evening. So yeah, don't miss it out.
Only one ticket?
Only one.
Wow. I hope they are not sponsors of HTC. That would be bad.
Yes, and yeah, this debate is organized by the Her Studio.
Can I bribe the audience?
You can try.
If I win, I am giving away 10 tickets to Nebula Summit next week.
you can also do an airdrop, probably. But yeah, let's get started with the introduction. So Jérôme, you go first.
So I'm Jérôme. I'm 82 kilos. I love L2s. I'm doing a lot of research on L2s, and we're doing some implementation of L2s. I love the topic of data availability. That's one of my favorites. I've used different L2s. I've used different chains. I've walked the walk and talked the talk. I'm ready for this. I run a company called Cometh and Ethereum Friends as well. I'm super glad to see all of you here, and this new format is really cool. Thank you.
Yes, and Jérôme is also director of ECC, so like the main boss of this event. Let's give some applauses. Sebastian.
Hey, I'm Seb. This is a very old picture.
You too? You the old one?
Before multi-chain world.
This is when there were single chains. So I'm the co-founder of Interop Ventures. We're an early stage fund investing in interop infrastructure and applications. I've been in the space for a while, hosting Epicenter and some other podcasts, and we host Nebula Summit next week, which is an interchain builders conference. I've been in the space for long enough to see the sort of trends, the infrastructure architecture trends evolve, and I see this whole debate about L2s and multi-chain be a little bit, I don't want to say useless, but yeah, you know. And if we look at the way technology has evolved over the last 30 years, we're going to see sort of similar architectural architectures come into place, and I think that's going to shape a lot of the way that we look at blockchains in the future.
All right.
Which is
Awesome.
that everything is going to be heterogeneous.
Let's give some applauses to Sebastian as well. Good, so let's get started. Like, why do we need L2s? Why do we need multi-chain? It all goes down to the scalability. And first of all, scalability of Ethereum, right? Because Ethereum is like the very first smart contract platform. But the transaction on ETH are not really affordable for the regular users. Sometimes like the transfer of ERC20 costs like $10. So how these scalability issues can be solved? Why we have scalability issues? And what are pros and cons between like multi-chain approach and scalability by enabling roll-up solution? So Sebastian, what are your arguments?
Look, I think that we need more decentralized security of state at a low level in order to enable more decentralized applications at a higher level of the stack. And so I don't care if like Ethereum is acting as a security layer or Avalanche is acting as a security layer or like some Cosmos chain is a security layer. We just need more security at the base layer in order to power trillions of dollars worth of applications and assets at the higher level. So that's my starting point, and that's where I think the multi-chain thesis, if you will, makes sense because one single sort of domain of state is not going to be sufficient to satisfy all of the need and also the different types of technical considerations or application-specific considerations that people might have in the future as these things evolve.
So what chains are solving Ethereum scalability in a multi-chain world? Is it Cosmos or is it Solana?
But I mean, I think that the issue of scalability is like it's a macro issue in that we need more chains. We just need more chains that have security in order to satisfy the broader. So we need Ethereum, we need like Polygon, we need Solana, we need Cosmos chains, we need all of these things to be adding security to the whole pie of blockchain security in order to be able to service the future of Web3, which is going to be like trillions of dollars of assets.
Yeah, but maybe if transaction on Ethereum would cost a few cents, we wouldn't need all these chains, right?
I mean, am I debating you or am I debating?
No, I'm just asking.
You didn't pick the right person to bribe.
We'll ask tough questions. Jeremy as well.
I brought the host is more straightforward.
Yeah, no. So I think that having one single kind of shelling point for security is in the long term not a good thing for the entire Web3 ecosystem because there's like inherent risks to having like everything sort of be secured by one thing. And so, and I didn't invent this analogy, but Sunny Agarwal from Osmosis talks about chains securing each other in a sort of NATO-like construction. And I think that looking at the blockchain ecosystem as something like this where there's sufficient amount of state and that we have the right kind of technologies for chains to be kind of securing each other and like verifying each other's state is a good way to think about how the space should evolve.
Exactly. So we need diversity, right?
Correct.
So Jerome, how do we solve it through layer 2s and rollups?
So, well, first, I think we need diversity. That's for sure. Like we need to have different chains trying different approach to scaling, trying different approach to inter layers, inter app chain, inter C chain, whatever they want to call themselves, discussing with each other, finding out new ways to bridge inside the same kind of ecosystem on top of the same layer one something. What I like about the multi-chain approach is that it's opening up for different types of VMs, and with the different types of virtual machines comes different type of applications and different codes and different things, and it's keeping us up to date of what's the state of possibility in the blockchain realm.
Damn, I'm already winning this debate.
Yeah, but I like this part, and we tried very hard at ECC to be kept an open mind on letting those different approach speak for themselves. Now, regarding Ethereum specifically, it's fair to say that this is where most of the value is flowing. Like lots of not so valuable NFTs now. Well, lots of valuable NFTs and ERC20s and Ether and so on. And when we were speculating in 2016 about what's going to be the future of Ethereum, the main argument was it's going to be the settlement layer, the world settlement layer, because the assets that are valuable are canonically living there initially, and they are discussing with different things through smart contracts, through different protocols. That poses a huge question mark for me, like am I going to use I don't know, my spaceship token or mint them on Ethereum and be able to use them on Cosmos, on any Cosmos chain, like how I'm going to do this kind of bridging. Bridging brings a lot of potential attack vectors, as we've seen in the last 2 years. Like the leaderboard of Rect is full of bridge hacks. So Ethereum versus multi-chain poses a big problem, like how we are going to communicate properly between Ethereum and the non-Ethereum chain. So that's a problem I have with multi-chain that I don't have with L2s, but I kind of have with L3s.
Do we know how we're going to communicate between Ethereum chains already?
Well, the bridges between L2s are L1 and L2 are a little bit better to verify, a little bit better to interpret, because they are communicating with EVM equivalent or provable communication between the two. But so I have less questions to pose to bridging between L2s and L1 than I have with bridging between L1s themselves. And I also have a problem with L3s. So I like the fact that you use L2s and not L3s in this thing, because L3s, you communicate to the L2 to communicate to the L1. So it poses a lot of questions in terms of communicating with what's inside or proving what's inside a VM. Storage proofs are used on multiple layers. It's extremely difficult, and that's a way for bridging to be performed. And so in a world where more and more values start to accrue into the layer 1 of Ethereum, I expect to see the booming of lots of different L2s, but L2s are not perfect. I'm showing you the face so you can punch. L2s are not perfect because they are bloating the state. Yeah, they're completely bloating the state with the data availability. It's extremely bad. I think we're not giving enough shit to Arbitrum, Optimism, and other L2s for bloating the state a lot. Like putting your data on Ethereum, it's not the best way to do. We should use different things, and we must use different things already because we're bloating the state. And I definitely think that we're going to solve the scalability issues that we have today with expansion on L2s, because currently the realm of innovation on Ethereum, specifically focusing on Ethereum, since the cost is very high to do transactions, are innovations that must have a lot of value in the transactions that are being cast by the users, which means essentially DeFi. DeFi and potentially real-world asset eventually, but up to there we are stuck. Like we need more affordable block space with good properties in security and trust assumption in order to be able to innovate in traceability, loyalty, gaming, and so on and so forth. So in that sense, I'm a huge believer in L2s with loose approach on the data availability, the different data availability layers on that. I'm going to speak about that tomorrow, by the way. Come to my talk tomorrow. But less so into like talking to a multi-chain thing. I'm seeing some other chains becoming L2s, so very happy about that. I'm seeing a prominent L1 starting to do EVM stuff, so different type of communication. But there's one thing I want to ask you, like how do you see multi-chain world without a unified signer approach? Like either it is the Ethereum account, or maybe it's another type of cryptographic curve that we use, because that's posing a huge problem on the user acquisition part of it.
Yeah. I mean, so one thing you said is like we need more. You said we need more state, I think, right? Like we need more.
We need more L2s.
We need more. No, you said we need more capacity, right?
We need more users as
well. Yeah, we need more users too. And so I think that touches to my point, which is like
we
need
more block space.
Sorry?
We need
more block space, right? So we need more block space in order to host, the thousands of applications and like billions of users and trillions of dollars worth of value that are going to accrue to blockchains. So there's a couple of points I want to address, and I'm going to address your point about interoperability. So like one, coming back to this kind of like NATO analogy, I think that it's apt to think about different domains of state in the same way as we look at like countries today. So, the US and the US dollar is a major kind of settlement asset. It's the world reserve currency, and for now anyway, remains the world reserve currency. But that doesn't negate the legitimacy of other currencies, other asset classes, countries, like sort of having their own industrial niches, et cetera. And I think blockchains, in the way that they're going to evolve, are going to sort of mirror. There will be consolidation and aggregation of certain functions like settlement, and perhaps Ethereum is the place where that happens. But there's going to be utility in other domains of state and specific and other. You mentioned VMs that are going to serve specific use cases, and so it's going to be important to have that diversity there. And it's also important in terms of figuring out hard problems, because like if you have everybody sort of in one room, like looking at the EVM all day, or like looking at like Ethereum architecture, you're sort of like leaving out lots of different ways that we can innovate. So like in the last 5-6 years, like there's been lots of L1s that have proposed different ways to scale, et cetera. On the interoperability side, I think this is one of the biggest challenges. And I think that as an ecosystem, we need to come together around like a standard for state verification, the transport layer, and like the types of applications that are going to be able to talk amongst each other. And one standard that I think everybody here probably knows about is like the IBC standard. Now the IBC standard solves the transport layer very well, but the issue with Ethereum and Cosmos chains is the ability for those chains to verify each other's state, and that I agree is like a huge problem right now. And if ecosystems could come together more and like try to figure out the ways in which that we can make this more efficient, either by having this like in Ethereum having be subsidized, for instance, but I think to be able to verify state from other chains and vice versa, although I think it's less of an issue in other chains, then I think we'd be on the way to having this unified kind of like state layer where sort of state can verify state from other domains.
Don't you think we need to have the same wallet everywhere, like the same signers? It's like I come from I've been spending so much time recently doing stuff on Starkware, having fun using this new thing. Really good L2. And one of my main blocker on Starkware was like, oh, I cannot use my MetaMask. I need to use something else. Like how am I going to do that? So even going to do something on Solana, do something on Tezos, do something there, I realize like, oh damn, I need another wallet to do this. So can we just?
That's also a huge issue, and I think I see I see the wallet thing as like I started my career in Web 2, and we used to build websites for IE6 and Firefox, and we had all of these different integration issues. Now the integration issues were not as complex as the ones with wallets, but like having unified signing across the higher layers, I think would be like also really useful.
More precompiles.
Yeah, guys. You already started to talk about like adoption, right? But there are many questions that should be solved even before that.
I want to hop on adoption specifically in the context of multi-chain, because would I be sitting here if now Cosmos would be the major layer one and having lots of Cosmos chain discussing with the layer one of Cosmos and Ethereum being not the most used L1 as it is right now. I don't know, because both Polkadots and in a way Avalanche and also in a way Cosmos were built in with this idea of we are going to aggregate a lot of things on top of us. And it felt like on the adoption standpoint, the multi-chain view is kind of a spin of a new narrative. Like, oh, we really need multi-chain because we built this from the get-go, and like, where are you guys? We were busy focusing on creating a value layer for layer one, so yeah. So should you focus on acquisition on the other chain?
I didn't understand the question.
All right then.
Was that a question, or was that just like rambling?
An argument.
It was a thought. So yeah, indeed, like Ethereum is the most used ecosystem, right, with the like broadest adoption. But the question or the most controversial topic is security and decentralization. Like, are rollups indeed decentralized? Are they secure? And what rollup is more decentralized than Cosmos?
None.
There is no more decentralized rollups.
No. Honestly, like rollups are pledging to become more decentralized, more open, more auditable, more XYZ, whatever. Several pieces in several stacks are not so open sourced. Several pieces of some closed stacks also are like not the right license for potentially blockchain. Several things are single points of failure. We don't know what's going to happen if we have to do the massive exit on Optimism or Arbitrum. Like, well, I don't know. Yeah, it's still in its very, 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 very infancy. So we are far from there compared to something that's was built in order to operate like this. But like getting user first and pragmatically with pragmatism, building up your interoperability has so far been a better strategy for growing your ecosystem. Right. That's
exactly. Yeah. And the main question that concerns everyone is like, who is running sequencers? But yeah, I think we're running out of time already.
I've met a few validators, but I've never met a sequencer.
So yeah, maybe Jerome is running sequencer for one of the rollups. But yeah, so we had a great battle, and now it's time to decide who is the winner, right? So do we have like multi-chain world where like many chains will exist and help to scale up Ethereum, or like the cross-chain infrastructure or overall ecosystem will be Ethereum centric. So in order to decide the winner, let's do the following. If Jerome won the winner, you should applause guy, and we'll see like who made more noise, and just determine the winner of this battle. So yeah, who is on the layer 2 side? Good, good.
Thank you. I wanted to say that I stand on the multi-chain side.
Okay, now who is believing in the multi-chain world? So I don't know. It's really difficult because like the level of noise we should measure like decibels.
5 tickets
you
to
know?
Nebular. 5 tickets to Nebular.
Okay, make it 2 tickets then.
Do you have like 2 tickets? Okay.
All right.
We got the green light. So yeah, it's a party. So we'll see. The time will show. But yeah, anyway, it's amazing discussion, and the future is multi-chain, but at the same time we'll have many roll-up. But we'll see who will take the biggest market share.
I can't wait
Thank
for
you.
the first time L2 spin out as a L1. Wow.
To convert layer 1 fees into revenue, right? Now we see that Cello is
DYDX.
converting into layer 2. So. Thank you, guys.
Oh, actually, I'm gonna hold it with those. All right, all right. Does it work? Woo. All good? Guys, we're about to start the next panel. All right, all right, all right. Is this working? Oh, perfect. So we're good to start. Are we good to start? Can we start? All good? All right, what a fancy jingle. So, yeah, we're good to start. All right, so I'm very pleased to moderate this funky panel between Togrul and Louis. Louis from Starkware and Togrul from Scroll. I'll let you very quickly give a brief introduction about yourselves, and then we'll start to explore the ZK VM versus ZK VM paradigms and so on. So yeah, Togrul, you want to start? I see that you have some good gear for this fight, so.
Yeah, I came prepared. Hello, everyone. My name is Togrul. I mostly shitpost on Twitter, but sometimes I do research. I mostly work on decentralization, bridge design, and stuff like that.
So I just want to first, before anything else, thank Togrul for bringing the glove. We will need it.
And it's the first time I've ever worn these.
I just want to say, good. Okay, so I'm Louis. I'm the ecosystem lead at Starkware. Been in crypto for 7 years, been at Starkware for 4, and basically my role is to help the dev and the project within the ecosystem to be successful. So here I am.
Okay, so Togrul, you're very much into defining how rollups work, but it's maybe about time to define what Scroll does, because it seems pretty useless at that stage, as it's not.
Oh, poop, poop, poop.
Can I just go? What do we do? I mean, you probably know better than I do. We are a Type 2 ZK VM. We're building on top of Ethereum. We're a ZK
To be.
rollup. To be, yeah. We're. Thank you, Leo. Appreciate it. Yeah, we're gonna launch quite soon, and when we launch, we're gonna be Type 3, and probably by the end of the year, we're gonna be Type 2.
Sandy, if you watch this stream, I'm extremely sorry. I just needed to entertain the crowd. I really like Togrul and what Scroll is doing, and I really hope that that will not compromise my RPGF support. No, no. No, but no. Bouncing back to StarkNet, could you please define it as it's also a network that has a lot of perks, but also a lot of cons, and I'll deep dive into these very soon. And Togrul will support me in this inquisition, in this mission to challenge you.
I would be happy to start. So StarkNet is Starkware has been is a ZK focused company. We develop zero knowledge technology mostly through scaling, and the way you can think about ZK is like a compression algorithm for computation. So StarkNet is the achievement of 5 years of work, meaning being able to have a full OS, a full blockchain, being able to be efficiently proved, and to settle it back to ETH as an L2. So as opposed to Scroll here, we're not trying to be EVM compatible, at least by default. And we are trying to provide better new tool, new optimization that we believe will provide more use case to emerge in the space. Improve the existing ones and new use cases.
Well, one of the main things that, like StarkNet started with Cairo 0,
yes.
which was, a lot of folks have been chewing glass to play with that rather low-level programming language. We've had some improvements lately, but
sure.
On the Scroll side, you're working towards full EVM compatibility, and I would like to ask you about the developer experience, the implications on building on a genuine ZK EVM like Scroll is working towards. And yeah, if you could give us a little bit more about the specs and really insist on how that makes StarkNet irrelevant, that would be very cool for the audience so that they can take better decisions at the end of that debate.
You're putting too much pressure on me here.
I do feel he's a bit too nice. I think it's because his partnership depends on it. Just want to say.
No, the disclosure, no, never mind.
Disclosure, I pay him behind the back. That's the whole story. That's the whole story.
Let's just pretend that we don't know each other.
Yeah. Togrul? Okay.
Yeah. So our goal is to maximize compatibility with Ethereum. So essentially the goal is so you are able to use all the tooling and everything out of the box without needing to go through the pain of like transpiling things, recompiling things, re-auditing things, etc. You just write the code or take the code that you already wrote for Ethereum, copy paste it, deploy it on Scroll, and it just works out of the box. And the same is true for new programmers, because let's say if you go on Google and you're trying to learn how to program smart contracts, if you Google smart contracts for blockchains, the first 1,000 results are going to be about Solidity. They're not going to be about any other programming language. And therefore, it's much easier to get into it and learn Solidity and start coding. And also because there are so many different examples and like code snippets published on GitHub, etc., you can just like look at old examples, learn from them, and basically start in no time.
You want to? Okay. So I mean, we're building the world computer, right? As far as I'm aware, there is not one single language that rules the whole world. And so what I'm trying to say here is that for each demand, for each requirement, you use different language. If you want something that is fast to write, simple, doesn't need speed, you could use Python. If you want high performance, really control what's going on, you should not use Rust, you should use Rust. And so what I'm trying to say here is there is a lot of interesting things to get from Solidity, but there are technical limitation to what Solidity can provide and to what the EVM can provide per se. And I'm going to throw just a couple of those in the air for those who don't know. For instance, the EVM is a 256-bit operation, which means the following thing.
I've never been on a panel with Louis when he doesn't harp on about 256 bits in EVM.
Because it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense from the get-go. Anyway, so it doesn't make any sense. But no, but
It does to some degree, but yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, but like, yeah, so I'm trying to say that, for instance, the EVM is not type. And so whatever how strong the typing you put in Solidity, at the end of the day, if you send a Boolean, it's a 250 bits thing. And so that is not, I mean, it's a legacy thing. It's the same way, you can't write efficient code in JavaScript. I mean, you can try, but roughly speaking, you'll be better off writing in Rust. And so what I'm trying to say, it really depends on what your use case should be. And so in the context of Starknet, the advantage of not going for EVM compatibility, we were able to learn from all the mistake or errors that we didn't know better before. And one example is the fact that on EVM, in Solidity, in VM, we have EOAs and a smart contract. And so you don't have native account abstraction. You don't have the ability to actually have a contract that can run code. And so that's one thing, when people come to me, talking about Starknet, I always say, as a dev, forget about the ideology, forget about the ethos, forget about the community. Why would you come to Starknet in chain? Why would you use that thing? And I always say there is four reasons. The first one is cheap computation. Because the reason why we pay a lot of cost for operation is because everyone that's going to sync the network afterwards will have to redo it afterwards. That's something Scroll gets. The fact that you have cheap code data. The fact that cheap code data come from the fact that you can forget the data afterwards, that Scroll gets too. It's a ZK thing. But the fact that you don't have to deal with the EVM allow us to have native account abstraction and remove EOAs completely, which now, because the network is usable now, thank you. I mean, funny enough with the two globes, mean that you can actually have a transaction that doesn't require you to do a full approval of all your life and never revoke it. You can have a single click where you do all the set of operation in one go that otherwise you have to wait for inclusion on every other EVM chain. To give you an example about this multi-call thing, what I'm discussing is called multi-call, the ability to have multi-call within the same transaction.
Louis, I love you. Snarks and Starks are succinct argument, and so should your answer be.
Long story short, there are things within a new EVM, a new VM that you cannot do elsewhere, and that's what you get out of Starknet.
Thank you for the monologue. So his entire argument boils down to, certain parts of EVM are not very efficient. But the point is, we are not bottlenecked by EVM, neither are they bottlenecked by the execution. We're both bottlenecked by state growth, because you use Merkle trees, we use Merkle trees, so it doesn't matter. And until you solve the state growth problem, it doesn't matter whether you use EVM, Cairo, or some random VM that you built.
Are you saying that we're all doomed?
No, we're not. We're not.
Go ahead.
And so the argument comes to efficiency. And there are certain ways you can improve EVM's efficiency. Obviously, it's never going to be perfect. There are certain decisions that were made, as he mentioned, 256 bits. But you can always parallelize EVM, and you can solve the state growth problem. And that basically gives you a lot of headroom that we currently don't have. And in terms of account abstraction, we have 4337. So we don't really need to deal with it on the protocol level.
I like the fact with him that the future is the present. Your EVM to be, ZK EVM to be, and you're also talking about something that is to be. As far as I'm aware, I want to use things now.
But you still have the state growth problem now.
That's true. That is true.
So you're talking about the future as well.
But that is true. But the truth is also on the state growth issue is that, as you perfectly said, it's a problem for any blockchain today. It's a blockchain for any problem for any blockchain today, and none of them have solved it. I mean, we tried state running all of that. The main advantage with ZK, and the same from you, right? We can have statelessness. You can have storage proof and all the other things that allows you to sort of get the data as on the fly as it goes. But the state growth, while being an issue, is an issue because of the way we think blockchain. It's an issue because you believe, we believe as an ecosystem, that we need to actually hold the chain. When in the case of ZK, we decouple the miners, the validators, the people who actually makes money from the rest of the network. And those people they are making fuck ton of money. They can have the hard machine. They can have a petabyte of data.
But even then, because you use Merkle trees, you're always going to have some bottleneck, even if you run on server-grade hardware.
No, you can. Merkle tree can, so actually, something we're discussing on Starknet is actually putting the commitment to the state 5 blocks after, to have the time to compute to remove the Merkle tree from the tip of the chain.
Yeah, but we can also do that.
I'm not saying you cannot. I'm just saying that if the issue is about EVM and non-VM, you're using state growth, then you have not. It's neither VM problem, it's a growth problem, which has nothing to do with the stack we're using.
But what I'm saying is that EVM is not really a bottleneck for us. It's something else. And the same is true for you.
Right. I mean, right now we don't think about state growth of the problem the same way Ethereum doesn't think truly about state growth of the problem. It's not what we're trying to optimize right now. Otherwise, we would be just solving 4844. We would be solving a state growth.
No, I understand. But Ethereum's goal is also not to maximize execution. It's to maximize data availability capacity for rollups.
You're actually making a point which is still a bit weird to me, which is you are confusing two things. Execution from storage. Storage can be expensive, I don't care. But if you want to run a deep learning model on the blockchain, that's a dumb idea. Don't do that. But if you want something that is
so the only thing that you can use without hitting the state growth problem is running some dumb ideas on chain.
No. You want an example? I'm going to tell you on-chain words. Just go build an on-chain word. Go build, some simulation of NPC. Like that is not dumb. That there's entities like Dojo, Mod. More Dojo in this context, trying to run complex word with complex computation. And not everything has to be, if computation is cheaper, then it's just cheaper. It has nothing to do with storage. If I can do more throughput, I just can do more throughput, not more storage. I agree with you.
But again, for that, you have to separate the storage market from the execution market, one.
Yes.
And two.
That's called the gas price of each resource. Today the ETH is 20K. It was 2,500. It was 500 6 years ago, and it was 5,000 2 years ago.
No. But what I'm saying, you need separate markets for them. If you don't have separate markets for them, then you're competing with the people who are trying to access storage.
And that's why we are thinking about the multi-dimensional fees. Yeah.
So are we. But why are we talking about the future?
It seems that both initiatives are extremely late on their technical roadmaps, and a lot of things are yet to be implemented. But I think we're kind of celebrating the broader Ethereum nexus by being at FCC. And so there are a lot of folks in this crowd who are probably building using Solidity. So instead of benchmarking,
it's like a drug addict give you crack. Really, what the fuck, guys?
No, I can also give you Viper if you want, but I don't recommend it. But you can also.
We're not going to benchmark performances because it wouldn't make sense. As one system is in production, one is not. Doesn't mean that one is bad. However, I'll give you this opportunity on these last 2 minutes to trash the solution, the avenue for EVM compatibility on top of Starknet called Kakarot ZK EVM versus what you're trying to implement. If you're a Solidity builder, what are you to expect at T plus 1 year on both of these systems? Let's assume that Scroll is finally in production versus Kakarot that will finally become production.
You don't have to assume it will be.
I'll
assume
it will. I heard that, I'm going to give you an example of things that will be. It did happen eventually, but, the merge did happen after, 7 years.
Yeah, but luckily we're not EF.
That's true. Oh, that's for me. I appreciate it. Anyway,
by the way, it was a joke.
No, I'm going to be gagged afterwards. We love EF.
So, I'm not sure why you're putting me in this position. I actually like the Kakarot guys, and I don't want to fight with them. I want to fight with him.
So for those we don't, we literally meet at every conference. The guy is living on the plane,
I mean, you also do.
I stopped.
Right.
Yeah, it's for real. Anyway.
When it comes to Kakarot, it's basically, at some point, the Starkware community realized that, actually, no one wants to build on Cairo. So what should we do? We should add EVM compatibility. They tried it with Warp. It didn't work. So now, let's add EVM bytecode interpreter inside the smart contract.
It's funny how he put it. Wow. By the way, just for you to know, Starknet community has the fastest growing dev community in all crypto right now. That's not coming from me. That's coming from the developer report by Electric Capital, which is not RVC. They have nothing to do with us. And really great report, by the way. I mean, they did say I'm doing a great job, so, you know.
The problem is...
They did say I did a great job, so I'm happy with that.
The problem is he's counting in percentages, not in
No,
numbers.
no. I'm talking, we're the top 100. The top 10. Sorry, the top 10 chain in full-time dev. And retention rate, which I'm not comparing for him because he doesn't have any dev.
And the biggest amount of bold cryptographers too.
Huh?
And the biggest amount of bold cryptographers too.
Crazy people.
That's a big deal.
Crazy people. But like we have a retention rate of, which I'm going to present at the next conference. You should run on Friday, but if you do, it's sold out, so you cannot. But so the starting retention rate has, first time someone commit a Caro code to 6 months after, we have 20% retention rate. And which is roughly 2.5 times more than any other.
I'll explain the reason why. Because you're stuck with Starkware, there's nowhere to move. If you build on Ethereum, you can just move anywhere.
Folks, I think that we're running out of time, but that has been a very entertaining debate. I'll ask the folks among the crowd to pick a side in this room. If you're thinking that the ZKVM approach is the most convincing for what it's worth, you can choose to go on the left side of this room. And if you are on Toggrul's side, then you might just head towards him. Please do so. Oh, the clap method. The clap method is okay. Well,
You don't want people to get killed here. It's fine.
no, but I'll invite you to clap then, and let's see who's like convinced by the ZKVM explanation. Introduction. Sorry. ZKVM. ZK EVM. I have to be honest, like it really seemed like the ZK EVM got like the trebles and the low end was much higher.
It was because I was clapping.
All right. What I propose is that oh, all right, no.
He just likes me so much.
Actually, well, I'll pick a winner in this room to get actually a Degen ticket. That make it easier and
Yeah,
well,
I trust you on this.
well, true randomness.
Randao, true randomness.
I think we have a nice candidate to get that ticket right there. I'll go here. Yeah. So that's one Degen ticket for the Cartesy guy. So.
Starking? Me? Okay. Welcome aboard. Yeah, I think you will have to shout a bit more. So proud.
Yeah, you said to start, to shut up?
Everyone, please quiet, please quiet. Quiet. Quiet, it's worse than the academy, I have to tell you. Quiet.
Ether just dropped 50%.
Okay, what? Yeah, let's start, okay? So I'm happy to see you all. Just to remind you, the rules here that this is a debate and you can choose sides and move between sides, or after that we'll just ask you about your opinion. So the topic of today, I'm Lior from Stake Capital Group, a lawyer, a long time in the crypto. So the topic of today is the recovery. Yeah, it's a magic. Okay, so the recovery option presented recently for wallet recovery. and using actually secret recovery phrase shared with enterprises partners and KYC, etc., etc. I'd like to, sorry, but I'd like the contenders to present. Please present yourself and let's start debate.
Yeah, so hi everybody, and well, don't forget to move to the side that you like more. So I'm Nicolas Bacca, I'm one of the 8 co-founders of Ledger, and I am here today to defend the idea that you can protect your secret recovery phrase, you know, the things that you are never supposed to give to anyone, to someone that can actually protect it for you. And maybe for a bit more introduction, I want to say that I have not been involved in the creation of or design of Recover. My only involvement has been the creation of the Ha Recover smiley on Slack. So for French people, I will let you translate to other people. And well,
Hey there, my name is Joseph. I'm the founder of Pawn. I'm an ex-Ethereum Foundation contributor. I'm here to defend what we all came for to crypto, which is not your keys, not your money. And yeah, I guess we can get started because that was my catchphrase. I don't need anything else.
Thank you. By the way, I'm a criminal lawyer, so Nicholas, you are absolutely innocent.
yeah, and not your key, not your money. I mean, maybe we can argue if crypto is money because you're a lawyer. No, I'm not trying to change. I'm not trying to change the debate at all. Don't worry. I never debate in bad faith, and I never interrupt people either.
Let's start. I can debate about this anytime. Let's start. Let's say that you should choose one of the options between recovery or do it on your own. What is more crucial, users' absolute autonomy or corporate support? Please share your insights.
I will let you start because I already started. No, I think it's more fair.
I think it's also easy to tell like which side I'm on. Like I think so. If we are going into extremes, I think the user autonomy is.
It wasn't me. Thank you.
How many people maybe already used the recovery, or maybe have some market research? What are those slides that you literally saved? So yeah, the need, was it measured somehow? Because I'm sure that a lot of people really need it. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Yeah, definitely, yeah, but yeah. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Il va falloir qu'il soit extrêmement autoritaire.
À ce moment-là.
I have a question for you.
Oh, sorry, I'm still organizing the tour of the night. I want to go there, but we have to go there. You don't have a mic? Okay, so you lose. No. I think here is your mic. Okay, people, so everybody's ready. I move from the recover side to the moderator side, so let me know if I am more successful that way. And the next two contenders for our new epic debate are Julien on this side. So Julien has been designer of Argent and one of the first guys to play with smart wallets, I think, and to make them popular. So very, very strong contender for the smart wallet side for EIP 4337. And who better to not defend the AOA side than Yoav, who is an actual mafia boss. I mean, the boss of EIP 4337 and member of the EIP 4337 mafia. So I think this debate will be very, very good, and we will definitely be able to know what is the better thing between smart wallets and EOAs. Wait, maybe not, because actually we have only people working on smart wallets here. So I'm going to do something a bit original and unexpected, otherwise we are in trouble. Is there someone who wants to defend the EOAs in the room by any chance? Whoa! We have one volunteer who agrees to be walked on and stepped on for the next 20 minutes. Okay, that's great. So, I will introduce the debate, well, very, very easily. Let's say, okay, in smart, we want to see what is in the beginning. How can you summarize, both of you, with the extra new member of the debate, smart wallets and EOAs? What can you say?
I can give it a quick start. The idea of EOA is to really couple the account with a signer, so some cryptographic material, a private key, and a public key. And so there's really the link between the two. So the account is the object on chain, which holds the asset, completely coupled to that private key that you need to secure. And that's why you need to back up that with a seed phrase, which is a terrible experience, right? We all know securing password is complicated, and now we need to hold to that password.
You can use recover. Sorry. Okay. Sorry.
Wrong debate, Nicolas.
Yeah, wrong debate. Sorry.
So the EOA model is basically, this is hard-coded. This is something that was programmed in the EVM, and there's no other way to have an account. With smart contract wallet, you can actually program the key functionalities of an account. That means you can decide how you want to verify transaction, how you want to execute transaction, how you want to pay the miner, and how do you want to protect your accounts against replay attack. So the two difference is one is hardcode, there's only one way. You couple the account to the EOA, the private key. With account abstraction, you can basically program it the way you want, and that opens a lot of possibilities and enable a much better UX while maintaining self-custody. That would be my 101.
Okay, then yeah, that seems super good. I mean, so what's left on the EOA side in the end? Why would you want to use EOA today?
Yeah, so even though I'm with the Ethereum Foundation, product manager for 4337, before that I founded Portis, which was an EOA wallet. So I feel like I can speak on behalf of EOAs.
Thank you.
So I would say that one thing is like, you know, An argument we sometimes see, it's like, keep it simple. It's like one key, one user, it's simple. That's something that can, people can understand maybe. So what do you say to that?
Yeah, so the EOA model is really simple. It's really simple. It's not simple for the user though. Securing your key is not so simple. Do you keep multiple copies so you don't lose it, or do you keep only one, keep it very secure so that nobody steals it? So for the user, it's not as easy, and so I think the simplicity is on the wrong side here.
So yeah, so simplicity is on the wrong side. I think is an important summary of the current discussion. But if we look at simplicity in the past, by the way, because as I said, you have been using smart wallets before 4337, and before even people started talking about account abstraction, and before it was a cool thing. So why did we decide suddenly to create a new standard, and what are the differences that are going to happen with this?
4337, you mean?
Yeah.
I think 4337 is very similar to what we built at Argent, for example. The idea was to use a normal smart contract of Ethereum as your account. The problem is that smart contract cannot pay for transaction fees, and so for that we had to work on a concept called meta transactions, which is the idea that instead of signing directly the transaction, you sign an intent with an EOA that doesn't hold funds, and that intent is relayed to your contract by someone who's paying the Ethereum transaction and then is refunded by the contract. And that's how we kind of managed to make regular smart contract behave like accounts. The problem is that there was no real standard to do that. This relaying component, for example, at Argent, we built our own, which was great, so we could relay transactions for our users, but you can see that as a single point of failure. We made it so that user could still not use Argent and pay for the transaction through MetaMask, but conceptually you see that there's kind of a problem. This relayer is really custom to Argent. Some great people try to tackle that by building the gas relaying network, but again, it was a private company trying to create a solution to relay this meta transaction. So there was actually no good way to decentralize that component, that ability to send meta transaction. And that's exactly what 4337 solved, in my opinion, is basically creating a decentralized market to relay these transactions to regular smart contracts on Ethereum. This doesn't really matter for the user. In the end, it's the same user experience, but we make this protocol, this architecture, much more robust because now all the components are decentralized.
Okay, so I'm going to raise another problem here. Gas fees. So I'm going to split this up into two. We're going to talk about the transactions and everything costing a little bit more. But also there's the element that, here I created a wallet in my head for free. Here I thought about another 12 words, another wallet. Here I need to deploy a contract. That costs me gas fees. So that's also something you sometimes hear from people like, this is more expensive. Why do I want to use something which is more expensive?
Yeah, so using account abstraction is more expensive, and it's probably going to always be more expensive even with an enshrined version. There is overhead, but there is also overhead to other choices you make when managing an account. Let's take Ledger, for example. So if you are using it, you can use 12 words and you can just use MetaMask for free. So why do you spend so much money on a ledger and actually get a user experience that is less convenient than not using hardware wallet? You spend this money because you need an extra feature. You need security that you don't get otherwise. So with account abstraction, you get this additional. You get additional infinite amount of features, and yes, the deployment costs you something, and there is also execution overhead. It's probably worth it for most users.
Maybe if I can add something on top of that, I think it is a valid point. And at Argent, we started building on L1, and I think that's one of the reasons why we didn't get, the adoption that we wanted. I'm sure a lot of people in this room are not using an Argent wallet, even though now everybody agrees it's the right user experience because it was a bit more expensive. But that's also why now we are pushing to adopt native account abstraction at the layer 2. Because if your transaction is 1 cent or 2 cents, that doesn't matter much. Of course, if it's $10 or $20, it may matter. But I think bringing that to layer 2, which we believe is where most of the users will go, actually makes that overhead kind of negligible.
Okay, so Ethereum is not the only chain out there. there are additional chains, and with an EOA, it's simple. It's the same key pair on every network. Now suddenly there's a problem. It might not be the same address. What happens when I change ownership? There's a couple of challenges around the fact of, having the same account across chains, not to mention the fact I have to pay to deploy on all chains. So speaking to the cross-chain ecosystem, how is EOA?
I don't take side as a moderator, but I think that that's a good point, because how are you going to handle 4337 in a multi-VM ecosystem? I mean, how are you going to have something that is as easy as just, using the same key?
Should I go? I can give a part of the answer. I think one way to tackle that is to realize that users don't care about chains. Users care about applications. So in the end, we need to build application for users. It doesn't really matter on which chain it relies. If I want to play a game, I want to play a game on that chain. It doesn't matter that this game lives on 50 different chains. So I think I'll rather build the best user experience and offer access to all these use cases to users on one chain than actually trying to be on many chains at the same time. So it is a valid point. There's clearly pros and cons to everything. But I do think that these are engineering challenges. Even if you want to go the 4337 way, I mean, there are challenges to basically make sure you can deploy your account on every single chain with the same address. I think the fact of paying for the deployment of the account can be abstracted as well. So all these things are, yes, there's a trade-off. There are a bit of more complexities, but I think these are minor engineering challenges, and we have all the building blocks to solve them. So I don't think that's a big issue in the end.
Yeah, so I'll add that in the cross-chain world, even though you can't get the same address everywhere, so you can't have the same address everywhere. You can have ERC-437 makes the best effort to enable that, but since it relies on create two addresses, so on some chains where the creation is actually not a catch-up, like on ZK Sync, you can't get the same address. So yeah, we need an extra standard to specify which that the same address, that the different address belongs to the same account. But you have a benefit that you can't get otherwise. It's actually easier to interact with multiple chains when using account abstraction, because you don't need to hold the native coin of each chain, which you would with an EOA. Instead, you can pay on one network and have paymasters paying on your behalf on other chains. So you can have a smooth and transparent experience when they're transacting across chains.
And so we have 4 minutes left. So I think the last question and the last thing we should think about, because I guess everybody in this room has seen Vitalik's presentation, and since you are here, and about account abstraction history, and that the original goal when Ethereum was designed was to have smart accounts. So in the end, EOAs are accidents because, someone needed to ship something. So who do you see, if we project ourselves a few years in the future, how do we move to native account abstraction everywhere? Or at least on all chains?
I mean, that has been literally the thesis I've been pushing for the past 2 years. And actually, that's probably one of the only disagreements you have and I have, is what's the best route to bring native account abstraction on every chain. We all agree that it needs to come, and it will come. I believe that we should be more bullish, and layer 2 should be take a bit more risk and try to diverge from the EVM. The EVM is great. It's great to have standard, but I do think we need to fix the little stuff that, as you mentioned, were accidents of history, like EOS. So I believe we need to push layer 2s to adopt native account abstraction today, while I think the approach of 4337 is to be a bit more, I don't know, I wanted to say sneaky, that's not the right way, the right word, but is to try to make it work at the application level so that it can be unlocked at the protocol level very easily and transparently for users. So that's kind of the more rational way to do. I think we need to be a bit more bullish and push for it, but there are chains that already have native account abstraction. You have that on Starknet where you only have smart accounts.
Yeah, you're just missing the EVM, but yes.
Yeah, but that's the previous debate. I hope.
Oh, sorry.
I hope Louis won, by the way.
Sorry. I will stop doing that.
I let Louis promote that point. Okay. And then you have ZK Sync, which is also building with EOAs and native account abstraction.
Right. So we both agree that the goal is to eliminate EOA. We don't. We both
sorry,
agree.
Sorry, he said both. He said both.
Yeah. So
You can go and sit now. Your
Okay,
time.
so I think about so Julien and I both agree that we need to eliminate EOA. It's just we are taking a different approach, and my approach, I believe, is more pragmatic because it's adoption. It's organic adoption based, meaning with ERC 4337. We want to have account abstraction everywhere without needing to change the consensus in any way. So you can use it on any layer 2 or on any VM chain, basically. And then when we have a native version, it will be much easier to convince core devs of various chains to adopt it when they already have user adoption with the account abstraction. So then we can make a consensus change that is compatible, and users can benefit from the new version without changing much. So it's going to achieve the same goal. It just does it in a pragmatic way instead of forcing everyone to switch at the same time.
So now we have a debate because, of course, I want to react on that, but I think this is not the point of.
You have 1 minute. You have 1 minute for the true debate. Let's go.
Yeah, my problem with that approach is that I think it will take a long time. Smart contract wallet, as we mentioned, Argent has existed for 5 years. We've seen all the complexity of building a smart contract wallet on a chain which is designed for EOAs. And I think it will take time to educate developers and remove that friction. And so our fear is that we are basically wasting time. We need to onboard more users. We need to solve real use cases. And if we wait 5 years to finally have what's needed for the good UX, I think it's a missed opportunity. And so that's why we believe that we actually need to solve these issues now. And yes, it's maybe a bit less pragmatic, but layer 2s are starting on the blank page. So why not innovate? Why not take that opportunity to actually do new stuff? So
yes, and that would be the final word. Again, not taking side, but yes, we should innovate as much as we can because we are still testing stuff in the crypto industry. So now I will turn to the public, and who wants an EOA? Yeah, okay. So I guess you get the ticket or something? Yeah, no. But the debate is
one
yes.
of the first Argent users,
Yes.
or ironic.
Perfect. So the debate, well, was not really a debate in the end because account abstraction is the way to go. And sorry for breaking the format. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm the.
Hey.
You've met before, right?
Yes, of course. Hey, Julien. No, c'est juste pour dire. Okay, you ready?
Let's go.
Okay. I will let people reorganize. Two mantras. The first one was not your key, not your coins, and the second one is don't trust, verify. So how can we even be talking about closed source software in crypto?
Well, I think actually for the record, I want to mention that Lefteris and his friend they tried to kidnap me in a restroom and lock the door because yes, I can say this is true story, right? Yes. So basically, open source versus cloud source. I mean, come on, guys. First, outside, we like to invest in people building cool things, correct? In open source, it's impossible. Like, no VC wants to invest in open source. Why? Because it's complete chaos. First, there's no way to make money. And secondly, anyone can fork any project. So imagine, you finance a team of developers, like 5 or 10 guys, you spend a lot of money, and they all work on the product. They all push it on GitHub, and then the next day you have someone that come up, have no relationship with the project, no relationship with the money, take the project and then create something new with a closed source program that is actually providing value to the community. There is no value in open source.
But the question was not about VCs, the question was do not trust, verify, right? So
yeah, at least it was introduced that way. But I mean, it's a good point as well. But go on, please.
But I mean, like, if you look at Rect leaderboard, most of the projects that have been listing on the leaderboard, 99% of all projects coming from the open source community.
So you are saying that open source is easier to hack, basically?
Of course, because you can see the code.
Yeah, but then, well, let's go back to the don't trust, verify question. So,
yes, please.
The initial question is do not trust, verify. So, this is what the entire crypto field is based on. So if you do not know what the heck the code is doing, then you do not know if someone is going to steal your money through a swap, has complete control over anything. So we are doing nothing here. If we say we just use closure, so let's just go back to TradFi. There is no simple difference. It's just a slower SQL database.
So you're telling me that multi-chain was very safe for you to use?
I didn't use multi-chain. I don't. So basically, you are correlating something being open source with something being unsafe, which is basically just, it has no correlation.
No, my point is open source tend to usually always end up in a very unsafe environment.
What environment are you using? What operating system are you using?
No, not necessarily operating system.
No, please
Which
answer the
operating
question.
system are you using?
Well, I'm a big fan of Linux, but I've been using Apple for a long time.
What have you been using?
Like Mac.
Which is also Unix, which is
Yes.
also open source.
Yes.
So
Oh,
you are
no,
using,
no.
are you using an unsafe operating
It's
system?
not true. It's actually a closed version of an open source software.
It
That
has
they
this-
made it. This is exactly one of my problem. They try to find a business model to open source world. Well, open source has no way to generate value. It's constantly being forked, constantly being hacked, and the value is propagated to people that just fork. That's my problem.
The value is being propagated to people that fork. Okay, so you want to go to the funding point of open source then?
No, I just want to close
But
everything.
do you concede that the don't trust, verify is basically the whole reason why we're here? And if we are to go back to basically just using closed source software, I mean, let's just just
But
shut
at
it
the
all
end
down
of
and
the-
go
At
home.
the end of the day, if you look at this community, 99% is here for the money. It's not here for the tech, right? So as long as you provide a tool, as long as you provide a tool that help them solve problem, which is basically making more money because they want to chase really high APY with no intrinsic value. They want to
but
yield
if they
farm.
If they are here for money, maybe they will like to keep it. And I think open source is still better at doing that. I mean, for the time being, when you're able to read what you are doing, you get a better understanding.
But wait,
And
let's say that people trust me because even this Ivan guy, Ivan ZB from Lobsters, he wrote something in Lobsters that made really an impression on me. That he's somewhere in the middle of this debate of closed source versus open source, but then he writes, but Lefteris, I really trust him because he's an angel, he's a saint. So, like, this is something that people tell me, that I am like just the good guy, and people trust me. Yet, if I do make a closed source thing, and I tell you, this is going to give you 300% APY, 3000 APY, and in there, I actually have an owner a function that basically I will just steal everything.
Not
Don't you think that?
Not necessarily. If you look at the space and all the different projects that is being built, especially with one person that I will not mention the name, is being rug pulling the ecosystem on a constant basis. But yet,
Tell us
yet,
more, please.
no,
It
yet,
seems interesting.
if he comes tomorrow and build another project, people will all jump into it. And you, that's been working in open source, and myself also spend a lot of time in open source, we're just left behind. So the thing is, this ecosystem is not about trust. It's about what will serve the personal interest of all the people in this room. That's the problem.
But
So at the end of the day, if you really want to build something and raise money and provide value to the ecosystem, you need to go for closed source.
Maybe if we take back the idea of these mysterious people rugging, of this mysterious guy or girl, I don't know, rugging people project after project, are they open source or closed source projects? Sorry, I'm just trying to put
They
the
are.
debate
They are
down.
open source. What is it called? Test in prod. Open source type of projects.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, testing in prod. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. So maybe, well, we talked a little bit about the funding, but in the end, well, I'm still trying to be the moderator here, but we see a lot of funding coming for open source projects.
Which one?
I don't know, like, let's trying the example of Uniswap. Uniswap got some VCs.
No, Uniswap, they have a very nice model, which is called Uniswap Labs.
Okay.
And, tell me if I'm wrong, they have raised a quite significant amount of money that have been never distributed to retail. But for the people working for Uniswap Lab, it's been pretty profitable because it's closed source.
So they are closed source. You mean you can't check the source of Uniswap today?
No, I can check the code of Uniswap, but I cannot check what they're actually building on top of Uniswap for themselves, market making and all different projects. My point is...
The funds are used for that, but in the end, they still manage...
Because I have to say that they are source available, not closed source. They're not open source, like it's totally different.
Yeah, the license, yes. The license is an important debate as well.
Yes, but that's... We can go there if you want.
We can go to the licenses, yeah,
sure.
that's fine. We can go there.
Yeah, so Uniswap is source available. That means that you can look at the code, but it's not open source. You cannot modify it, fork it legally. That does not mean that people don't do that. People still do that. People, like someone in China will just fork it, make a API 3000, and then get wrecked for whoever uses it. But that doesn't mean that it is actually open source. This is called source available. This is something that I've had a debate with many times, and it's actually terms that have been established in the software world like decades before cryptocurrency came, and we are trying to reinvent terms right now, which is another reason why we are hated by the software community.
Yeah, so you would say that on the grade of success, how many people have been losing money by using fork of Uniswap in different regions of the world because they use an interface that is just there to scam people? Well, and the amount of people that have been using Uniswap for good. I would say that you have more people that have been hit and damaged by those forks of Uniswap than actually the opposite.
But that is orthogonal to the question of the license. Someone will still
fork it. It's nothing to do with the license, because Uniswap is open source, so people copy Uniswap and deploy it for scamming people and then hurting the retail, and it's really bad.
Is it that difficult to come up with, to understand and just make similar code? There is many others that are not like exact copy, like fork of Uniswap. They will still fork the retail. I really think that yeah, you can't fix.
I can feel you also turning into closed source.
You can't fix
yourself.
stupidity.
I know. I can.
No. You cannot fix stupidity with licenses. Like people are just.
It's not about license. I just shut down everything. Then we use ZK proof, and we don't make the code available, and people just use software that serve a purpose and help them fix their life.
No. That's not how crypto works. That's not a world that I think really would work. Basically, we can just go back
That's
to.
That's the reason why we will always have more projects coming to Rec News. I mean, it's good for my business because I get more people, but it's very bad for the people using those products. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I don't really like the direction the debate is going there. So, okay, I'm still a moderator, I'm impartial and so on. But yeah, I can't really say that open source is less safe. I mean, if it's your point.
I mean, come on, like, is the code in Ledger open source?
Oh, most of it is.
Most of it, is it?
Actually.
But wait.
And-
So you're
trying to defend the open source, but
Oh,
you
but
also like go for
completely-
closed
but for
source.
completely different
wait.
reason.
You're trying
completely different reasons. I see.
You're trying to basically claim that open source is more dangerous. That's what you're trying to say.
I'm afraid it is. Sorry,
On the
still
scale,
moderating.
on the scale of success, yes, it's much dangerous.
Just Google security through obscurity, and you will see exactly why open source is much better than closed source. Because closed source doesn't mean that it is not secure. It just means that, well, it's still there. It can still be hacked. It can still be reverse engineered. They will find the problems. Well, with open source, you have enough eyes looking at the code. If you're an idiot somewhere in, I don't know, some third country.
If
Wait.
that's so simple, why we have so many projects on Rec News leaderboard?
Because there is a lot
All
of
those auditing
because there is a
firms
lot of
failing after
there is a lot of
failing
scammers
attempts.
in this sector, and that does not mean.
I think it is. I think he's getting like mentally feeling. I'm a devil advocate here, but if you
It depends. If you ask an
yeah, but
Australian,
look, the creator Satoshi Nakamoto
Yeah,
is
that's
closed
it.
source.
That's it.
But the
Ah,
code is
man,
open
that's
source.
what
I mean,
I'm
what the
saying.
fuck?
And if you ask,
No, you don't know. You don't know them. They are working behind the curtain, and they're working and building code that you don't even know yourself. No, like not the new code. I don't even know what I'm saying.
maybe we can talk about building code behind open doors and being code behind closed doors, which is also different from just being open source. Because then, I mean,
what do you mean? Can you define that?
Different ways of creating open source project. I mean, you can create open source project and let everybody see what you are doing, and you can create open source project and just open the code. I mean, after everything is ready, which is also a different way of developing, and well, which
But
can.
my point is, why would you spend your time, your energy, your resources, and 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, working on something, putting the code for free, where you can just work with a nice team of people, the same style, raise a lot of money, and provide value to the community. If at the end, people fork your work and go and scam other people. It's very bad. So basically, by doing open source, you are providing free tool for scammers. You are on the side of scammers.
Wow, that was deep. Thank you. That was a nice.
Yeah.
That was a nice devil advocate
Sorry?
argument.
There's no such thing as a free lunch, you know. So whatever you do, there's always something behind the thing. When it's closed, when there's a company, strong core team, then it's through the legal framework.
A strong
you know?
core team can still get hacked, can still get leaks. There is no security through obscurity. This is something that is very well
Not
established.
true,
in the
because
security
you have
industry.
strong regulations and strong people on the law side that will make sure those people running those really strong company are fully audited.
And we see this in
Yes, you're right.
crypto.
Thank God for the law.
Sorry.
I'm sorry, you're totally right.
I'm
Thank God
behind
for
the law and the regulators, yes, of course.
Hey guys, just going back to the Bitcoin open source, there's billions of dollars to get if you can hack the protocol, right? So regarding the security argument, like it's open for all the best hackers in the world to try to get at. The code is open source, and yet it's like one of the most secure systems in the world.
Yet, yes.
Because you think so, yeah. So you think Bitcoin will be, Bitcoin will be hacked one day because
I
it's
mean,
open source.
I prefer, that's the reason, maybe you're a Bitcoin maximalist. I've been in the space for a very long time, so I was also on the side of the dark side. But then I moved to Ethereum. Why? Because Ethereum was started by a core team, Goldman Sachs, some very nice guy financing the project. So I know exactly what I'm putting my money into. The problem is
Alternative story
the
of
problem
Ethereum.
in Bitcoin. The problem in Bitcoin, I would say that it's not just one guy. Satoshi Nakamoto is probably all we all say.
But again,
A
if you
group of
ask-
people, but was maybe financed by some NSA or whatever. Some very tough guy, very bad guy
Yeah,
that
but
put
if you-
something that we cannot understand yet ourselves because we are not educated enough and smart enough.
But can we go back to the
But
topic
it's a-
of
it's a tick bomb.
open versus closed source? Because I mean, what the fuck?
What?
Can we go back to the topic of open versus closed source?
That's what I'm saying. Like it's in
and we
open
have-
source is also like some open.
And we have 3 minutes to conclude. So I think it's the time to bring your best arguments to the table.
I think you should surrender, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, open source versus closed source. Like we are building an ecosystem that is built on top of the shoulders of giants. Like we are building on top of Linux, we are building on top of Ethereum, which is an open source ecosystem. Then someone comes and the topic is not source available versus open, it's closed source completely versus open. So you come and then you suddenly say, okay, now we stop this, we become elites and we just close everything, build on top of the shoulders of giants, and then just give nothing back. And also they don't trust verify. This is just basically the only way to win such a debate. Just go back to TradFi if you want to build closed source. That's like pretty
The
simple.
only way that we can survive.
Okay, it's not voting time yet. You have 2 minutes before clapping. 2 minutes.
I mean, the thing is, like, look, we've been in this space for more than 10 years, okay? Like, even bigger than that. If you look at the community, look at this room, it's like 10 people in this room. And if you look at the global community, we have probably like 1.1 or 5 million developers in this world, or people involved in this ecosystem of blockchain. And you tell me that it's not an elite. Basically, this space is 0.0001% of the population that have access to those different tools. So by working in open source, working in decentralization or whatever, you're just building tools that will benefit your own interest. So you'd actually just avoid bringing billions of people out there in this tool, because if we fail over 15 years, what can guarantee in the next 5 years that we'll get 1 billion people? Nothing. So what you're doing is just for all of us, just for the interest of making money. And that's very bad. So my point is we should go and talk to the TradFi and see if they can acquire the thing that we've been building, and if they can actually look and connect to the thing. So then we can bring more people and more TVL. That's the only way.
No, I mean, I can't wait to see a closed source version of Ethereum backed by big VC firms. So I would feel much more confident myself.
So will be the case.
And this finishes our very heated debate. I'm not sure how this one will be won, so let's try to applause again. So on Leftery's side, open source. That's right.
I've got some item people, I'm sure. Look.
Okay, and let's make more noise for the big VCs coming and closing Ethereum, please.
I have free ticket for that day, Jen, okay?
Okay. I tried that trick already. So how are we giving this ticket? I mean, who will be the fastest to raise a hand? I see someone in front. Do you have a ticket? Yeah. No? Then you get one now. Whoa. Congrats.
Mais je crois que j'étais down, Ah, c'est moi, compagnie. C'est moi, là.
Je vais pas défendre les compagnies. Hein. Sorry. Ah, je suis là?
Yeah, we can look at the Apple. I know, but like
All right. Yeah. So let's kick it off here. Today we have our two fighters. I think we should say we have Mark Seller, who runs the Avichan initiative. Mark, he went from being, I would say, one of the front figures of the Aave company to now running, I would say, one of the most successful delegate platforms in all of DeFi. He's done a lot of stuff that other delegates haven't really been able to. One of them is to achieve a significant delegation from the community, with over 40% of the tokens delegated to him coming from community members. So really cool. So Mark in this round is representing the DAO. Of course, Mark, do you want to say anything else, or?
Oh, it's a very good opportunity, and I enjoy meeting with Julian because I think it's a tough debate for him. So please give him some applause now because it's going to be a hard time for him.
And then we have Julian on the other side, who's representing the company in this case. Julian has had a lot of experience with many companies, exited multiple businesses throughout his career as an entrepreneur, and now runs, 5 different businesses under the Stake Capital Group. So we have a really heavy hitter crypto entrepreneur here. And Julian, in this case, will be representing the company part of this battle. So basically today, we're going to explore a little bit about what are the benefits and advantages of sticking to the more centralized foundation company model, or decentralizing and turning things into a DAO. So, I think originally the plan was that people should be moving around, depending on who gave which answers, but I think
there's too many people.
The logistics are a little bit complicated around that right now. I heard people screaming in the last panel, so maybe we can do something like this.
Oh, feel free.
Yeah.
Apparently it's being streamed across all the different screens in a venue, so big.
Very good.
So trying to get the main stage, but it was not big enough, so we came here.
Amazing. Okay, so let's just start it off here, right? We'll start by just touching upon, what are the 3 I would say best reasons to be a DAO or remaining within the centralized structure. I think for the first round we'll have Mark start here.
Well, we got a lot of experience in the previous cycle of what centralized finance and companies have done, and the contribution of those companies in the ecosystem. And one of the company of Julian is specialized in reporting on this company. So Celsius is a company, Voyager is a company, FTX is a company, and so on and so forth. And whereas Aave is a DAO.
And maybe you can just go why is Aave a DAO? What is the reason why Aave is a DAO? What does it need to be a DAO?
I think it's the vision, because at the end of the day, traditional finance is quite efficient. There's been centuries of optimization in finance to make things more and more efficient and optimized. What we are trying to build is not just finance, because finance exists. It's another way to do finance, decentralized finance. And a good way to do that is to do that as decentralized autonomous organization.
So Julian, is this the only way to do it?
The thing I was giving some time to Mark to be able to articulate his thought, because poor guy had to call his wife to make sure he was actually attending the panel because he was trying to escape. But
I was shaking. Look at this.
I was shaking. I had to provide him some food. But no, what I've
Thank
heard,
you for the sugar.
What I've heard over the past 5 minutes, it was really tough for me to keep my mouth closed. It's something.
It always is.
Yes. It's something really ridiculous. if you look at, I mentioned it a couple of hours ago, history of society, Greek, Roman, and all those different people spent 10,000 years trying to find a governance model. And us, arrogant people, we believe in less than 10 years we can come up with solution, decentralized autonomous organization. But what decentralized autonomous organization have been providing is just a complete shit show. Look, the biggest thing in this community that we should be all ashamed of is a DAO. The DAO, we had to fork the blockchain. And people tell me that the DAO is a solution. Well, I believe the company is actually really profitable and can run in safe net for providing value back to the people, because DAO, if you look at the entire ecosystem, people are fighting each other. You don't know who's running what. You don't know what the type of delegation. Okay, it's probably the biggest delegator out there, but maybe there's one guy behind. I don't know who are the people, because it's like a bunch of Hanons, bunch of
There's
people
a bunch
trying
of
to...
them in the room.
Maybe,
if you are
maybe not.
dedicating to the Avechan initiative, you can raise your hand if you want. Oh, there's a few ones.
Yeah, yeah.
And
There's
you
a
can see
few
they
one.
have good swag.
So my point in this case is DAOs have just brought to this ecosystem a complete chaos, and I will rename DAO to chaos, to be honest.
So, I mean, Julian, you know, I know you've been like a core contributor of what would arguably be one of the most successful governance experiences, which is Curve. So, are there like no advantages at all to decentralizing the protocol?
Well, it's a good point. Like, you know, like we were working on Curve Finance, and we probably built the biggest DAO out there. I also found a company called Stake DAO. You know, I put myself really deep in a hole. So the issue, what I'm saying here is like, yes, correctly, then we add given access to people to take control of the governance of our product. Guess what? Those people that they are just incentivized by making money, they don't care about the product. What they want is just short-term profits. Then we have to regain control. I will not mention a big project because every time I mention the name, all the people from Lobster DAOs and all that stuff attack me. But the problem is exactly what's happening. You give governance power to people, you just extract the value from your project, from the governance of your company, and then you are not in control of the company. But those people that have governance, that hold tokens, what they care is just the short-term profits.
I think it's all
you can clap your hands, and the back was like, yeah.
I think it all boils down to how you define and you constitute your governance. And I think every organization has a culture. And obviously, if you enable grifting, you will end up with people that consider DAOs and DAO treasury as a free buffet, where any clown can go into the circus and say, hey, give me $1 million because I'm cool. But it's a learning process, and I think most DAO, there's been some excess during the last bull market, but are getting better at this. We have better framework, we have better guidelines, and what you describe is less and less true.
No,
factually.
I mean, okay, if what you're saying is correct, tell me why people are not using the governance directly instead of delegating the governance to someone.
I mean, I would like just to make a comment here before we also want to progress.
The
in
point of adding governance is
this
to be
one.
able to play your governance. But if you give it to someone, this is not a DAO anymore.
I mean, I think like decentralization doesn't necessarily just come from individual participation, right? It can also come from just the ability for you to participate, right? Like you mentioned kind of like the birth of democracy in the Greek era and saying like now we're trying to kind of like do something different, right? But DAOs can be seen as political systems.
If a DAO can delegate entire percent of the voting power to someone, then the someone is actually running a company. It's not a DAO anymore.
That is not true because it's a liquid representative democracy, and I insist on liquid. So first thing,
liquid is a new word, like liquid staking, liquid governance, all this type of things.
Well, it was here before blockchain, so you know. But I think it's a very naive and uneducated way to think that DAO should be completely flat, because we all have this vision of ancient Greece, but I want to remind everybody that in ancient Greece, if you were a woman, you were not welcome in the forum to debate on laws, and if you were a man not rich enough and not owning land, you were not welcome to discuss on law as well, and if you were a slave, that was not welcoming as well. So we have this holy grail vision of completely flat DAO, one person, one vote, that does direct democracy. But it's not based on the actual fact. On the actual fact, if you work 40 hours a week and you have 2 hours commit per day, maybe your contribution will be to give voting power to someone that wants to spend 40 hours a week to do that. And the good thing and the game-changing thing is that if you are not happy with this person, you can remove your delegation instantly with a single transaction.
Yeah, if you remember your wallet. But the thing the thing is like if you look,
well, if you don't remember your wallet, it's not your problem anymore.
Yeah,
it's
but
not your token anymore.
If you look at the different companies that have been building, and a lot of the amazing people I know that are running a beautiful company in this space, I would say that diversification, like the amount that. I would say like I have probably more 50% women and 50% men in my company. So it's not because you run a DAO that it's more diversified. And also I welcome anyone.
But that's not the goal of the DAO, right? I mean, the goal
no, it
of
was
the
the
DAO
point. It was saying like ancient civilization from Mars. They were doing and blocking people from accessing those governance mechanisms.
But it's
my
not
point is
about
like in a company you can now everything is open. You know, you can also run due diligence. You can have a full transparency of what's going on in the company, and also you can put your people in the landing page that are working for the company. In a DAO, it's all closed. You don't have access to the information. It's not transparent. You don't know who you're talking to. Then those people.
So my takeaway here is you're saying that your companies are more transparent than any DAO that we have. Okay, let's move to the next question. I think that closes that one out. Okay, so let's try something here, because I feel like we have like strong oppositions here. So let's play a little. So Julian, this is going to be difficult for you. Now you have to mention, what are you missing out on the most by not being a DAO? Put yourself in the other position. If you were to be a DAO, which of course, like you run your companies a different way, is there something that you envy of the DAO model? What would you want from them?
Yeah, I want the toxicity. I want all the drama.
Better than Netflix, yes?
Yes, all the people stealing tokens from each other, all the people not finding where the governance power goes, trying to make proposal on something that is done because the forum not working. Snapshot is a complete, you cannot make a proposal. Yes, of course, I'm missing all those different features.
There's a lot of good things. Okay, yeah, noted. Mark.
I have to say, like, Snapshot is getting really better. Like, let's be nice with Snapshot.
The UX and UI is good. The UI.
And the second thing, Gnosis Safe is much better than what it was a few years ago.
If you have $10,000 to spend on creation of wallet, yes, it's nice.
Okay, so Mark, what are you missing out on by not working under Julian's leadership in one of his centralized companies?
The great leader, Julian. That's the good thing with DAO, is that we don't have to make a choice. Like, DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, is the way to organize and to govern things, but we actually have companies that work for DAO and are focused as service provider for DAOs. So the Aave DAO is controlled by anybody from the Aave community and the community of the token holders, but they decide on the company and on the budget that works on it. So it's the best of both worlds.
I think it's been recorded. You know what he said? The good things of DAO is that you don't have to make a choice. That's what DAO are, dictators. DAOs, they enforce you to lose your freedom. And then you give to someone full control of everything you do in blockchain. That's why if you go for a company, you can talk to us. We have customer services. We have like different emails. We use not like those craziness of Telegram, how to control a company, like jumping in the craziness of all those different things.
Yes.
Not yes. No. A company, it's very hard, unless you are a board member, to fire a CEO. When you have delegates that have actual control on the platform, if you don't like it, you delegate to somebody else, and that power disappears overnight. And that's actually the added value of a really decentralized DAO.
On your side, who's making the final vote on the smart contract?
My vote is the vote of
hundreds of people. You are the leader of the delegates.
Yeah, because hundreds of
people
trust me.
For me, I have a board member. I cannot take
if tomorrow they don't trust me anymore,
I have no freedom in my companies. The board is telling me what to do. And that's the difference. I have a bunch of people that help me or make decisions
every 12
towards
seconds.
Providing good value down to the people for retail. I serve the people. That's the difference.
You serve them. Does anybody believe that? Yeah, no. Okay.
Do we
look, Rect News. A company, we are all Rect, but it's controlled by a company because we know that we are doing the best to provide the best services for you guys, providing the best Rect articles, making sure that whoever is perpetrating bad actions, we trace them, we look at them, and we provide and we do a deep analysis on this. Because but we all here, we all Rect. No one knows who's actually working for Rect, but we behave as a company.
Yeah, you can do Rect without a company.
So Julian, it's very clear that you operate your businesses as centralized companies, right? You say you take the input.
I wouldn't say centralized. I would say as a functioning company.
As a functioning company, okay. Is it then a little bit misleading that you call one of your companies for stake DAO?
Because that's the thing, when you really want to deeply understand the thing that you're trying to fight for, you have to get yourself into it. And I put myself into it. So I said, okay, I will call my company a DAO, and I will operate and I will try to understand. But then I realized that it's not actually a good way, because I know exactly what's happening behind the curtain. Many different things. People are hiding things, stealing things. It's dangerous world, very dangerous. But if you go for a company, you can register, you can see. We have even an office on the street. This is amazing. You know, you can open the door, talk to someone, and ask for recommendations. Or if you are having a problem, you can go there and you can ask.
I think what you say so far, it all boils down to, oh, there's bad DAOs, so every DAOs are bad. But if we go that way, I started the conversation by quoting Voyager, Celsius, FTX, and yes, there's bad companies, and does that mean every company are bad? I think we can do better in this debate.
No, that's good. I mean, those companies, you're setting up companies that act in traditional finance. My companies act in decentralized finance. That's a big difference.
But I mean, you also have companies that have closed books, right? That is not transparent under State Capital Group.
No, it's not true. No, everything is open. You can come and I will show you the book.
Okay, yeah, that's of course like one
That's
version
very
of
accessible.
transparency.
Really auditable, right?
Okay, so let's wrap like the final question here. We were not able to do it as structured as I imagined, but that's okay. So like today, like what is like the main accomplishments of like Aave in this case, and what are you like aiming to accomplish in the future?
I think the main accomplishment of being a mature DAO like Aave DAO is that we reached the point today where any service provider, Aave Chan initiative include, the Aave company include, any of the two, because we are redundancy, so any of the two risk team, if any of us will disappear overnight, the protocol will be just fine. And the DAO will appoint new service provider to replace them. And we have this resilience that is absolutely impossible to simulate in the centralized world. If Julian disappears overnight, a bunch of bad things will happen to his project.
No, I've got my kid. He will run the company. It's very fine.
Are you sure?
So maybe just like,
he's like 18 months old.
Can you just make like one comment to what resilience means for a DeFi protocol?
Resilience, to me, I'm very attached to this concept that if any part just stop working, it can be replaced and everything was fine. You don't have any single point of failure.
Okay, Julian, you'll also get a chance to answer. What does your setup accomplish today, and what will it be able to accomplish in the future, operating as a company?
I think going for a company, it brings you all the happiness of working with good people, and
if you work
knowing,
for a company, you get a
knowing who you work for. You can sit next to each other. You have a place where you can come and all discuss in the same room. So that's the main difference. I mean, the reality of those DAOs and those chimera about to change society of governance is that almost killed Ethereum. And for me, I will never forget. So that's the issue. So now, if you have a company, those companies and my companies, they all talk to each other, and they all like each other. There's no drama. There's no chaos. Everyone is happy.
Okay, so that was basically it. So like, let's try to see who was the winner today. First, we'll go with Julian. He first line.
Don't
so
forget about
everyone. And then now to his strong opponent, Mark Seller.
But that's the issue. People like to get wrecked, so that's why.
And one thing, as a winner, I give a gift to the audience. So the first one to rate, that's you. You win a ACI T-shirt.
And a ticket to the gym.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you all enjoyed our small discussion today. Let the next panel come.
C'est pas fini, c'est que j'attends. Je connais pas la tête de mes prochains speakers. En fait. Mais vas-y, Matt, je t'en fais pas. Est-ce que pour discuter, vous pouvez aller juste dehors? T'envoies un message sur Twitter, c'est toi qui as gagné? Ok, ça va. Non mais les deux.
J'ai vu une réponse tout à l'heure, j'ai contacté sur Twitter.
Mais c'est normal, je suis là.
C'est toi qui gères le truc. Ok.
Et la soirée c'est demain, donc il n'y a pas de souci. T'inquiète pas, tu l'auras, ouais, c'est reçu. C'est reçu. Are you from the panel?
Non, c'est juste
Non, ouais. Mais les gars, ouais, c'est pas du tout le moment en fait. Il y a un autre panel qui commence. Donc c'est pour ça que je vais. Ben, il envoie un DM, je vais envoyer dès qu'on a fini.
Je peux rester ici, venir te voir tout à l'heure.
Ben, tu envoies un DM à la Degen. Hey. So are you guys the two contenders?
Yeah, it's the three of us.
Yeah, so three of you. Please take place.
Ooh.
What is the moderator?
He was the guy. Nick. Oh, he was just here. Oh, that's there he is.
Your position is here.
Oh, my position is here. Okay.
Can you put yours there?
Yeah.
Do we have to like stand in this side and like squat?
Yeah, we gotta like fight each other.
Like get ready.
It's like a Hadouken or something.
I guess so. That sounds like a legit fighting music for a game.
Oh, but we gotta get you guys to go on each corner though. Like,
Is that what it is? Oh, it's for the people.
like round one.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Amazing. So thank you all for coming here. We have two magnificent titans, warriors, who are going to be duking it out today. From Uniswap, we have Austin.
Should I give an introduction? So I'm Austin. I'm from Uniswap Labs. I'm not sure if I'm Oracle powered or anti-Oracle powered. You'll see that will be a theme of this debate. Is it depends is the operative word always.
And in the other corner, representing Gauntlet, we have Tarun.
Hey. Yeah, similarly, I think the dialectic is probably the best way to describe my feelings towards oracles. But at the end, we're going to poll everyone and figure out who you think was pro oracle or not. So it's going to be up to you to decide.
It's actually a reverse debate. We're trying to convince you which side we're actually on. So it'll be more fun that way.
So actually, before we start, out of curiosity, raise your hand if you're pro oracle. Okay.
Uh-oh.
Just so we understood. Just so we understood where the battle lines
I just saw my total addressable market.
And yeah, Nick, you should introduce yourself.
Okay. I'm Nicholas Kunkel. I'm the founder of Chronicle Protocol, which is the second largest Oracle protocol by TVL. We've secured MakerDAO since launch in June of 2017, and we're launching our new Oracle spec in September.
Very cool.
Anyways.
We know what side you're on, actually. So.
But today I am Switzerland. I am neutral.
Switzerland.
Well, not new Switzerland, like old school Switzerland. So I wonder if we could start by just you guys identifying in your own words, like what problem do oracles solve? And because I think that will help us like recognize whether oracleless mechanisms actually replace the need for oracles because they solve the same problem.
I'm not sure. I think when I think about an oracle, I think about just on-chain prices is usually when I'm like thinking about an oracle, like a Chainlink oracle or like a Uniswap TWAP oracle. I think they're just ways for smart contracts to get prices or anything like that. Maybe I guess like interest rates as well, like just ways for smart contracts to get data that they need.
Yeah, I think there's a couple components to this. The first component is, of course, off-chain data that needs to be used in computations done on-chain, whether it's pricing in DeFi, whether it's a game or something, or off-chain information about assets that are living in the real world, like Nick probably can tell you about much better than I can, because I don't understand how the RWA oracles work. But there's also this other point about oracles that I think is actually quite important, which is that they have sort of low communication complexity and overload, in that you only have to give a single state update to propagate through, say, an entire, getting the entire market data, right? So if we think about an AMM, there has to be arbitrage against it to keep it near the true external price, if the external price is sort of the most liquid market. But there's also some uncertainty because you have to wait until all the trades are ordered. You have to wait until there's some sort of like sequence of things that happens. Whereas an oracle gives you that in one shot, right? You get a one-shot update. And so for better or worse, the one-shot update is a lot less lossy in some sense. And so that's one point of distinguishing behavior I would make between the two. That's not just that they bring on-chain data, but they're a one-shot view. Now, think about the etymology of the word oracle. Oracle comes from sort of theoretical computer science oracles, not like Oracle of Delphi. It is an idea that, like, hey, imagine there was like someone who had an answer to a problem that is a black box. I have no clue how they're solving it, but I could be like, hey, here's a SAT problem. Give me an answer. Here's this NP hard problem. Give me an answer. Here's the sharp P problem, like maximal matching. Give me an answer. And the idea is the oracle gives you the answer immediately, and then you look at the complexity for you, given that you can get that answer. And that's the same thing that on-chain oracles are doing. And in that case, it's this communication complexity, round complexity thing that's actually quite important.
Yeah, when I accepted this debate, I thought I was going to be against someone who was more, or not as sophisticated as Tarun. I was like, now I'm nervous just talking about NP complete problem or NP hard problems. I'm like, dang, this is hard. I guess the only thing I would really add is I wonder how much of like the one-shot updates are because of like the limitations of the EVM. Like when I've been thinking a lot about like what will a canonical V4 oracle look like. And a lot of how we think about the V4 oracles to get prices on chain is mostly just because of like gas compute of overhead. So we're like nervous to give too much overhead and gas to swappers or LPs. So I wonder if that's sort of like that problem extended. And so that's sort of why like oracles are so simplistic, because like they just pretty much have to be. And there's never been like oracles really designed for, like all the things we design are always for mainnet and never for like an L2. So I think like maybe in the future we could think of like L2 primitives where they take more state and they do more things with it. But
so let's shift context a little bit. What are oracle-free protocols or mechanisms? And do they share any kind of like commonalities, right? There's like a few different implementations, but are there common properties between them that, that are important, that are valuable?
Yeah, so I guess going back to sort of the communication complexity type of arguments, in a lot of ways that's the UX problem. Like whenever people talk about like the UX of making a trade or opening a loan in a Oracle free protocol is a lot more work, in the sense that like there's more knobs to turn. There's more stuff you have to think through when you make the transaction. That's the same, the UX problem is exactly this communication complexity problem. Like the user needs to actually be doing more active management in some ways, in the worst case, than they do in the pure Oracle case. But they're actually quite different in a lot of ways. So something like an AMM, something like CFMM, they're all sort of, you could think of as like continuously parameterized. You know, I have an invariant curve. The invariant curve is this continuous object, and I measure how things change relative to this continuous thing. Things more like Ajna or some of the Oracle-free lending protocols, what they do is they actually have sort of these like discrete units, and you're specifying sort of like distributions in terms of these discrete units, and you have to do updates to prices or quantities at particular discrete intervals. And the kind of difference between the sort of very, very discrete, like, you know, there's sort of this trade-off of like the more discrete I make the units of things, so like they're chunkier, the less I have to do updates, but the worse my behavior without an Oracle is. But the more fine granularity I have something like an AMM, which is done, you know, in continuous land, you know, I could be losing not as much relative to having an Oracle, but I also have to take much more uncertainty from things like MEV. So there's sort of this like very weird trade-off surface, and the Oracle-free landscape spans this whole gamut of things. We're just starting to experiment, you know, I think I've been kind of very pro-Oracle here so far, but now I will switch, which is a lot of the new cryptographic mechanisms, doing things in ZK, doing things with FHE. The point of those systems is that they actually allow you to reduce your communication complexity. You can sort of batch transactions and only have to post a single proof that some sequence did satisfied some property. And in some sense, you as the user, that's what you want. All you really want to do is like say like, hey, here's some sequence of actions, here's some rules that define what I want, here's some proof that worked, and don't fuck me over, right? And like that's effectively what you're trying to say to this protocol. And yeah, my argument is that we won't get Oracle free being at parity with Oracle until you have some way of reducing that sort of round complexity for the end user.
Yeah, I think I agree with all of that. I think the one thing I would add is like when you have like an Oracle lending protocol, like both sides of the market can be pretty passive. Like you just sort of put your liquidity into a lending protocol and everything updates based off of that. I think one of the things that people are experimenting with like Panoptic and with like Blend and like infinity pools is like one side of the market is like really sophisticated. So can you bootstrap these markets with half the market is just putting their money into something, and then the other half is like sophisticated takers who are pricing everything. I think that's like pretty much what the experimentation on Oracle's protocols are, is can this market be bootstrapped if we give the right incentives to sophisticated players? I think I will do another pro-Oracle shill, I guess. So I think one of the things about Oracle's protocols that sort of concerns me is that it's pretty unclear what their trade-offs, what their manipulation costs are at this moment. I think one of the reasons people don't are sort of afraid of oracles is because the on-chain cost of manipulating that oracle is known. Like when you trade, you can trade Uniswap in a certain way that the oracle updates and you exactly know how much it costs, you know how much you'll make from it, and the oracle's sort of forced to do that. And I think that is actually good because if you know how much it costs and how much you can make, how much it costs to manipulate something, you can always keep your cost of capital below that. I think Oracle-less protocols, they just don't have they haven't been explored as much, but I don't think that means that we should not explore them. I think that like we just have to be careful on like thinking they're sort of a catch-all or sort of a I don't know, like the thing that solves all of our problems when I think they may bring up other ones and we have to be ready for that. So I don't know if that's pro or anti-Oracle, sort of both.
Well, you seem to have split the Oracle free into DEX cost of capital things versus lending manipulation for the Oracle free lenders, where it's not quite.
It's a little different, yeah. With like Chainlink, it's not really as easy. I think like that's also one of the reasons why Chainlink is very well used, is there isn't really a cost like there isn't that cost of manipulation. It's like much harder. You don't really know what the trade-offs of the Chainlink updaters will be, and I actually think that's one of the reasons why people use them. Is because like you don't really know. Like if you manipulate a market and the Chainlink guy has a different algorithm than what you're using, you're like, you just lost all your money.
Wait, Nick, I want your response to
that. Oh
that.
Yeah, hit me up with
come
it.
On,
nah, this is your time.
This is your time to shine.
Okay. I mean, this, what you just described, right? This obscurity of the attack costs, I don't really think that's why people use Chainlink. I think it's a first mover advantage, right? It's been around for a while, it hasn't gotten hacked, and people have just innately gone to this like, I need an Oracle, great, off-the-shelf component. Now I don't have to worry about this problem anymore, right? And at that point, it just kind of becomes this like self-fulfilling prophecy.
No, I do agree. I guess I think a lot about. I think it's funny because I'm an on-chain Oracle person. I think a lot about like the Uniswap TWAP oracles, and I guess my point I was more thinking about like why haven't those have more use cases? Like why aren't people using Uniswap TWAP oracles as much as Chainlink oracles? Besides the first mover, but I do think the first mover is quite a big thing. But like just getting rid of that, like how can you think about it? But I do agree. I think that like those are very good reasons for why people use Chainlink.
So can we identify like particular product niches where it's more beneficial to use an Oracle-free kind of mechanism or Oracle-less mechanism versus using an Oracle? You know, whether completely on-chain or a more traditional style of Oracle?
I think like a really good example is like Panoptic and Infinity pools where they're pricing very difficult collateral. Like an Uniswap V3 LP position is very difficult to calculate the cost of them, and that they can sort of people desire them in for a bunch of different reasons, and people have different supply and demand curves for them depending on what strategies they're running. I think that's really good, and that's like one of the good use cases for Oracle free. I think that's just the one that I sort of gravitate to the most. I think that like there's other ones that are also could be good, but it's less. I think those are like really good use cases of Oracle free.
Yeah, I think like the AMM Oracle free piece is sort of like having spent too much time having written papers about this in the last few years, like. The beauty of it is that the space of possible things you can replicate and like get positions on is huge. The curse is it's also huge because it's very easy to fuck up, shoot yourself in the foot, make your fees cause huge portfolio drag, ... There's like a million things in practice that are like death by 1,000 cuts to doing perfect, turning AMM into an option exactly, or turning AMM into a lending protocol exactly. Like it's still the dream, right? Like it still is what you want. Right? It would just be so clean for atomicity. It would be very easy for DAOs to actually own these assets. There's lots of reasons you'd want that. And it's good people are trying, right? But I do think the interesting question is like in the for the Morphos and Ajnas of the world, how much are people willing to trade off the loan marking time, like the latency until like the most updated loan price is correct, versus the fact that their interest rate is not fluctuating less. And I think there's actually a really interesting fixed versus variable trade-off that's going to go on in these protocols like Morpho, Ajna, and I think there's a bunch of others that are kind of in the same vein, where what you're trading off is very clear liquidation pricing, so you kind of have to be a little more conservative in some ways, risk-wise, as the user. But your interest rate volatility is down, so like you're able to sort of also compensate for that somewhat. And so that balance between those two is going to be something that I think people are going to explore a lot of. But one interesting thing, a very sort of bearish case for Oracle free from an infinite competition and like too much block space lens is do the following Gedanken, which is imagine that there's a bunch of block space and you have an Oracle and you have an Oracle free protocol. And there's a bunch of arbitrage between the two of those. So like there's the Oracle protocols, and then there's the Oracle-free protocols. Now consider the Oracle and the Oracle-free protocols bidding for the same block space in an MEV auction. Who's going to be willing to bid higher? Well, the Oracle-free user has to send more transactions. There's just more update rules that have to happen. They're taking up more space. And so for the same wealth initial bidder, the Oracle update will be able to bid higher and win that auction because they have less capacity of like actual transactions to get passed. So from this kind of thought experiment, you might say, okay, this is going to be hard. And so maybe one of the things I try to advertise on Twitter about my views on this is like the point of ZK, the point of FHE, is to compress that set of actions into one update so that it looks like it's an Oracle update. And if you can get those to be cost competitive, that is the way Oracle Free approaches the cost and performance of oracles. So I think it's actually necessary to have new cryptography. It's not just purely mechanistic views.
Yeah, that was a very good. I agree with all of that. not a fun. Not a fun debate. I'm like, yeah, I agree.
Like it strikes me a little bit, right, that this trade-off to go Oracle-less, right, requires users, right, different classes of users to be much more sophisticated actors than they were previously. And I think it has a very nice correlation to the difference between LPs in Uniswap v2 versus v3.
Yeah, wait. Let me do a survey, which someone else did at this MEV event earlier today. How many of you in this room have been a passive LP in the last year? How many of you have been a passive LP in the last 6 months? I have. How many are currently still a passive LP?
I didn't raise my hand.
So there was actually some decay in that.
No, I think at the MEV day it was some adverse selection going on. They did not want to be the. I was like, I didn't want to have to go up and defend it.
But this room had way more hands.
It did have a lot more hands. But I'm also saying I think it's also some adverse selection was going on where people didn't want to.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I just was trying to just get the more trend of do you see fewer people passive?
I think the more interesting question though is how many people LP'd on Uniswap v2 versus v3? Right. What the distinction I was trying to get at was, being able to passively supply liquidity, or to a DEX or to a lending protocol, right, is something that everyone can use, versus in an Oracle-less protocol, right, the active management is specifically catered more to sophisticated actors, and let's face it, probably institutions, right, enterprise, right, and you can say, okay, maybe the growth, right, in DeFi is maybe it's not going to come from retail, right? Maybe it's going to come from these sophisticated actors, right? But that is a choice.
Yeah, it's one of the things I think of in Uniswap v. Oh, are we out of time?
We're getting cut off.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. Unfortunate. So poll. Who is the Oracle pro Oracle? Me.
Ooh.
We got cut off. I was supposed to be the pro Oracle person, but I was, not as convinced.
Lovely. Cool. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, guys. It was very nice, very nice. Okay, we have. Where is? Guys, please leave the stage.
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to do
Yeah, I'm chasing you. Leah!
Thank you. Where is Leo? Is Leo and Christoph? Christoph,
Where's
yes.
Chris?
Testing.
Oh, you're really anonymous.
Who? I don't know who you're talking to or who you're talking you would about. Be dead. Gosh, did you bring all of your children?
I'll let you both talk, right?
Well, you have some opinions to share on this as well, don't you?
Not my job. I do. I know which side I am on.
We are about 10 people here.
That's it?
So I just call you Chris. Start? Okay, so welcome. So we have now this battle between Leo and Chris. I'll let you introduce yourself in a second. So this is intended to be a very active battle, meaning if you're on his side, go to this side. If you're on his side, go to the other side. If you're too lazy to move, then at least show some clapping or some booing or some whatever, if you agree or disagree with one of those, okay? So the topic is speaking about being doxed or doxing or being transparent or anonymous. So that's what we want to talk about. Before we get into this, Leo, I'll let you introduce yourself, and then Chris, you can introduce yourself.
Sure, a very interesting topic, I have to say. I'm Lior from Israel, legal counsel of Stay Capital, lawyer in the field for more than 14 years, I guess, so really from the beginning, and also writing articles in the academy and lecturing, so it's my topic for many years, dealing with this.
Okay, and my name is Redacted. I work for the Redacted Project, and what we're doing at the Redacted Project is building the future of Redacted. I've been around in the space for maybe not quite as long as Lior, but and I want everyone to know that I'm actually smiling behind this mask, just so everyone knows.
If you need to breathe, you know. Just
Thank you. Breathing is an important part of it. So yeah, thank you.
So I didn't introduce myself. So my name is Christoph Jensch. My background, I worked for the Ethereum Foundation 2014 with Vitalik, then the DAO, then many other things. So, but getting back to this. So when you think about public blockchains, there is this one feature about being absolutely transparent about everything which goes on there. Everything can see everything. We call it pseudo-anonymous because you're there with your accounts. And then there's some additional tag which allows you for even more privacy, looking at Zcash, Tornado Cash, and so on. So let's say we could have only one, full transparency or fully anonymous. What would you choose and why?
Okay, so I will go, of course, for the transparency side, which, of course, it's a spectrum, and there is a difference between transparency to docs, but transparency, maybe it's the highest level, and transparency, of course, enables society. So you can have trust in society, and transparency enables trust. Also, accountability, from the other hand, because we want people and organizations to be accountable. Also, access to data, okay? There is a freedom of access to data. If you are transparent, you can access to data. You could do something with the data. And also, in addition, it's preventing concentration of power, which is very dangerous because individuals, anonymous, can gain power. And so to sacrifice, I guess, part of the privacy in order to gain the society and a fairness society and an open society, I guess I stick with the transparency.
Yeah. It's an interesting take. I mean, clearly it's a pretty thorny topic, and it kind of divides opinion quite a lot. But I think if the options are everyone is doxed and everyone knows everything about everyone, or people have the right to be private if they want to be, then absolutely I'm going to argue the case for people can be private if they want to be. And I guess that, for me, is kind of like a self-empowerment thing, like something that gives humans the ability to kind of be self-sovereign and to kind of choose their own paths in life without fear of sort of outside influence. And something that I kind of, I hear your ambitions, Lior, about kind of wanting to build free and open societies, and that I also feel is something that we're actually trying to do as part of kind of like public permissionless blockchain building. So I think that the end goals that you're talking about can be achieved without doxing anyone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it's a jump between transparency to being doxed, and I understand there is a spectrum, of course. But since, ever since there is a community, so even Adam and Eve, okay, or if you are a couple, you should have some level of transparency to cooperate. And even if you look on the Ethereum community, it's a community. So he met Vitalik, I met Vitalik, you probably met Vitalik. We were speaking together, we were doing this and that and that and that together. with communication. And I feel when the communication is lost and when the transparency is lost, then also the community and the development is affected. So privacy in that sense can actually harm evolution and development even.
There's definitely an angle here, and like everyone seems to be talking about privacy these days because we've got these ZK things to play with, and this gives us sort of certain powers with privacy. There is definitely a risk here that we kind of lose sight a little bit of the opposite of privacy, which for me is like publicity, and that we could actually end up disappearing so far into our private worlds that no one actually finds out about any of these powerful technologies that are being created here. So there's definitely kind of that side of it, but of course I'm kind of here arguing for the privacy, the sort of pro-privacy stuff. But I think there's something about giving people the freedom to sort of walk their own paths in life.
And if my take on this is always total transparency for organization and total privacy, at least opt-in for individuals if they so choose. So, but it's not about my take. Let's go on and think about a bit what has Ethereum done so far. So, as I said in the beginning, Ethereum is transparent. Everyone is per default pseudo-anonymous. So, let's say the average user trading on Uniswap, aping into NFTs, has Ethereum done more good or more bad for privacy? What do you think?
I'll take this. So, I think for me, there's something that we OGs, if you like, almost take for granted these days, which is that this moment when you create your seed words and you generate from those your private public key pair to be able to operate in ways on chain, it's kind of like this magic step where you suddenly get this power to be able to act completely anonymously if you so choose, if you choose not to connect any of your transactions with kind of your off-chain identity, if you like. And this is something that is some kind of superpower, and it's something that not many people feel the power of being able to do until that moment where they download the wallet. So for me, just kind of opening people's eyes up to the potential of being able to act on a global scale with pseudo-anonymity is something that's like a wake-up. Everyone's like, oh, wow, so this is something new. That said, it's definitely true that these new powerful tools that are emerging, like we've all sort of probably done things on chain that we look back on in the past and say, gosh, wish I hadn't done that. But I think that's an education thing, and it's kind of a learning process thing as we start to kind of understand this new paradigm. And I think there's some, these problems can be solved by kind of education and helping people to kind of make sure they keep their...
Let me jump in there, 1 second.
Yeah, go for it.
The problem is only, I have so much effort to separate all my accounts. I have tons of addresses and make sure they don't touch each other. But let's say the average user actually does everything with one account effectively, even though they have 10, but they're somehow combined, the same ENS name publicly behind them. Yeah. So that's why the questions for those guys or girls who said, I have actually one address or all connected, I'm doing everything with it, have we harmed them with what we have built because we have not given them the tools to separate them as they should? Or
I don't think we've harmed them. I think we have given them the tools for them to harm themselves somehow. But I think it's also something that, we're a forgiving species.
Yeah, I would add from maybe broader perspective, I totally agree with the ability and the education. So it's a driving force for innovation and for evolution of technology, giving probably the pseudo-anonymity option to people. On the other hand, what I see is a lot of, not for the average user maybe, but for the people that are building things in the ecosystem, I see misuse of force. So I see a lot of, people that are staying anonymous, they use it somehow for illegal things or for bad things, for other things, because they want to earn money. So even if we look on Tornado Cash, okay, absolutely open anonymity to all, but then the developers that built Tornado Cash probably weren't consciousness about the ability that they give to the people. And then, of course, terrorists can use Tornado Cash to do this and that and that. So not everything every anonymity that you give to the people, every privacy you give to the people, it's contributing good to the world. Normally, it's the opposite side. Unfortunately, it's the opposite side.
I hear you, but I think this is this rhetoric of people use privacy-preserving tools for bad reasons. Like, it's undoubtedly true, okay, and that kind of can be said of any technical innovation. You know, you think about the number of people who commit crimes where they use the US dollar. You know, does that mean that the US dollar is a bad thing? I mean, that's a different subject altogether. But it's like any technology that comes, people are going to use it for nefarious purposes. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who are going to use it for entirely legitimate purposes to shield their activities from the world in ways that don't necessarily have to be because they're doing something bad. It could even just be something that, like, they're treading uncharted paths here, and they fear that later something might come back and decide that actually that thing there, you know, it was okay at the time, but kind of people might look at it now and say, well, that's bad based on how the world is, but at the time it feels like a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah. I also see a lot of entrepreneurs doing this shift in their mind. But yeah, of course, I support this, but I think the solution is not privacy, is not to take people out and tell them, okay, you are protected and now you can build. We have this these sandboxes or maybe that enable those things like enterprises to be developed. But normally, again, people are using privacy. People that want absolutely anonymity, absolute privacy, most of them are doing illegal things or taking advantage on others.
Didn't Satoshi be private? Was
Yeah,
Satoshi doing something illegal?
I thought about it. He has a lot of money, for sure.
Maybe, if you still has the keys.
Yeah,
But we have only 2 or 3 minutes left. So one thing about privacy is that we get backlash from governments and regulators. Let's see Tornado Cash as an example. So if Ethereum would be fully private, everything, let's imagine we get into this niche where we are actually not legal to be used and like the governments would forbid to use it, and only for some they still can, but technically it's not allowed. If we would go with full KYC accounts and everything, a little bit similar to the banking sector, we might be embraced by them and everything is running on Ethereum. At least we got more transparency than what the current banking sector gives us. So what do you prefer from those both visions? Like the dark vision, let's say, with the power to be having privacy, but technically illegal.
As a person that started with Bitcoin very early, I have an identity problem, but I need to serve the target and the cause, and I think so. If you want a transparent society with institutions, of course we've seen it was working. That's how the society was developing. Okay, from tribes to kings to queens to banks to Google, etc., etc. Then we can build society and we can build layers. And then, if a person with an entrepreneur with the innovative mind, he can find the cracks and he can break and he can develop and he can do what he wants under the certain rules. And it's a question if those are the structures that we need today, because we can see how countries are more weaker today, how people are pushing, or countries want to become, politicians want to become stronger. And it's the same streams that also we can see the reflection of them in our phenomenon, in the crypto phenomenon. So I would suggest transparency should lead the path and not privacy. Privacy maybe in an extreme situations.
I think for me, there's something to kind of that's worth acknowledging, that like the tools that enable the privacy, they're kind of like they're mathematical facts. You know, they're here. They're things, and like there's a whole swathe of society right now that's just not accustomed to operating in a world where these things are like available to everybody. So there's definitely something that's like, come on guys, let's just accept it. You know, we have these tools, and people are going to want to use them in ways that protect themselves. That's just like, I don't know, it's a given for me. I think there's definitely something to acknowledge that in the short term, we are where we are. We're not at a fully decentralized, down to the individual human kind of world. We still have institutions and corporations and governments kind of pulling a lot of strings all over the place. And it's kind of inevitable to expect that these guys are going to use these powerful emerging tools to kind of perpetuate themselves. But at the same time, I kind of feel like we've got to be realistic about like what's the nirvana end game we're shooting for, and that is, you know, a fully decentralized world where it's kind of every man for themselves, but at the same time doing it in ways where we're kind of coordinating each other or with each other in ways that make sense for all of us.
And for coordination, we need at least
So
pseudo-anonymity.
time is over, so last statement. So we have to summarize. I mean, I of course love to have the best of both worlds. I'm fully for having privacy as an opt-in if I choose to. So if Satoshi Nakamoto, even, like I remember in the very first days of Ethereum, there were developers who would not give me their name. They would not even give me where they come from. They wanted to stay anonymous on Ethereum. So many of those people built actually what we have today. And I'm working on security tokens, and I know what the regulations are. So one short statement from each of you, and then we are finished.
I think it's interesting that you mentioned it, but for privacy, you can actually choose to be private. If you want to be Satoshi Nakamoto, you can be like that, but you need to do it. Otherwise, so the world is still open for you to be private, but in the world, in the society, transparency.
I think for me, it all comes down to like how we frame the behaviors about having kind of made mistakes on chain. Kind of we think of them as mistakes, and like, you know, that's like you've sort of self-doxed, and we kind of think of that as being like shooting yourself in the foot. So for me, that's quite telling, and that's kind of like, that swings the needle back towards the anonymity thing and the sort of privacy thing, and acknowledging the fact that the tools are here and people are going to use them. We better kind of just kind of like accept it.
Hey, so thank you very much. So we now have tech for full privacy and full transparency. We can have both, I think.
Who was the winner?
Who's the winner? Who's for privacy? Clapping. Transparency.
I think they didn't want to decide.